Good morning. My name is Ray Cool. Thank you for joining today's webinar. We're going to talk about Dragon Medical and very specifically about best practices we've learned from working with hundreds of clinicians in implementing and training Dragon Medical in virtually every EHR that exists, in all kinds of workflow differences. Dragon Medical is a fantastic product. You're going to see that. Thanks for joining. So, content today will be quite simple. Most of our time will be spent demonstrating and reviewing some of the very important features that we've found to make a difference. Dragon is like any other piece of software. We all use software incompletely. The question is, how incompletely? Are we one using Dragon who simply uses our voice to text and that's all we do? Well, that's really helpful. But those who love and find Dragon to be a fantastic clinical productivity enhancer have learned to use just a few, not a whole lot, of additional features. We're going to cover those that we have found to be most important and talk about why and how knowledge makes a difference in use of this product. So thanks for your attention. So some of you have already used Dragon Medical. You may have used it in the past. If you've used Dragon Medical or seen it, let's say 3 or more years ago, forget what you've seen. Newer versions are faster, recognition quality extremely enhanced. So the current version of Dragon Medical is just a fantastic product, my single favorite tech product among all hardware or software products that we have used in 30 years of technology. So PBSI is the largest and most certified reseller in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana, helping clients, and hundreds of you who are physicians or other practitioners using Dragon. Nuance is the manufacturer of Dragon, though you may not know their name. They're publicly traded. They own Dictaphone. They are worldwide the only game in town for clinicians. There are very small and very few alternatives. Dragon Medical is just so good, and the underlying voice technology is used in other products, though you can't find public information that Apple, Microsoft, Ford, other folks embed Nuance technology in their voice recognition. It is true. So PBSI's role is among a group of resellers around the country who have been certified and learned how to really help clients use Dragon effectively. So we help implement. So that doesn't, if you've already purchased Dragon, you can use us for training or for support. If you haven't purchased Dragon, you can get discounts on Dragon. But our goal is to help with on-site and online support to help use Dragon effectively. So I'm going to look at today some of the most important features. We're going to move quickly to that. So first of all, on my screen, you see a picture of a couple of microphones on the right-hand side. So these are both called Power Mics. So the Power Mic 2, long-standing product, very effective. Power Mic 3 is the newer version of this. No reason to upgrade if you have a Power Mic 2. We're just exactly the same. You can see the buttons are virtually the same, minor differences. The newer is thinner or lighter, but the Power Mic is the preeminent microphone for clinicians using Dragon. 90-something% of clinicians using Dragon use this microphone, and there are some good reasons. When I first encountered Dragon many years ago, and I thought, well, why would I buy a $300 microphone when it's actually more expensive than that, but it's bundled for $300 with Dragon when I can use a $19 headset or something. So we'll talk about some of the features, but in particular, what's really useful is if I'm doing something with a computer, my EHR or whatever, I have a microphone in one hand and my mouse in the other hand free, where I can be looking on my computer, investigating patient information, and using a button to turn Dragon on. And we don't use a lot of buttons, but the times we do, to open text box, you'll see how this used. The buttons on the microphone are very useful. Plus, it's high quality and directionally sensitive. So somebody standing across the desk from me or in a hallway facing a different direction might be speaking, and Dragon will hear me and get my voice, and it filters out other people who may otherwise cause sound distortion or interrupted words. So you can also use other microphones. You can use your iPhone, you can use your Android as a direct microphone, wirelessly, not Bluetooth, but wirelessly connected to the PC you're using. You can use Bluetooth headsets. So there are a lot of different options, and we can help figure out best choices. But I'll be using a Power Mic in demonstrating. So I'm going to go to do that now. So PowerPoint in this case is simply for me a feature list to talk through. So what are the things we've seen that if you use these features, you'll really find Dragon to be much more effectively used? Here they are. So templates is the first, and I'm going to start by demonstrating. I could be demonstrating into Microsoft Word, I could be doing it into Epic or Athena or whatever, Allscripts, whatever other system. I'm going to be using PBSI's EHR. So if you haven't maximized your screen, find the button to make this as large as possible because the text will appear pretty small. So I'm about to demonstrate Dragon, and if you can look on the very bottom right-hand corner of my screen, there's this little red box. That's a picture of a microphone turned on its side. When I press the on button on my power mic, that little box will turn green and Dragon will listen to me. Dragon conceptually is very simple. You see the cursor on my screen. When I turn my microphone on, wherever my cursor is, whether it's in an EHR or a text box or a large text box or in Word or in Outlook or wherever I am on a Windows PC, I press that button and Dragon starts listening. So here's how it works. I'm going to press the on button now. Patient is a 26-year-old male presenting today for hypertension, period, new paragraph. Patient's BP is 210/180, and I'm really concerned about medication dosage, especially highs or oral, period, new paragraph. Normal ROS. Select eyes denied. Eyes, red and bloodshot. All caps that. Go to bottom. Okay, so what did I just do? I used my voice to speak some things, and one thing you'll see is that no matter how quickly you speak, as long as your diction is fairly legible, you'll see it's gotten very, very good at interpreting even a little slurred words. Though the way I just did that may have been too slurred for Dragon to get. You'll see it's better in recognition than generally we are as speakers, but it knows clinical dictation, abbreviations. If you do medication dosage, it knows that BID is twice a day, and you can tell it whether the BID comes out all caps or whether it comes out as twice a day. So first of all, I used my voice. Then I used the name of a template. I said normal ROS, and this set of text was called in. Whatever name I gave that template, it could have been normal ROS, could have been my review of systems, could have been 1, 2, 3. I literally, if I named a template 1, 2, 3, I say that word, and it calls in this set of text that's associated with it. So then I used the select command, which we're going to talk about in a minute here in a little bit more detail. I gave it information to select text, and it did just what I did with my cursor right then. It selected the text I requested, and as in any Windows program, once text is selected, whether by voice or by cursor, whatever I spoke replaced it. So I replaced the normal denied verbiage here with what I spoke. Then I used a command called all caps that. I could have said caps that and it would have capped each letter. And so these are just a demonstration of a couple of key things. So first of all, the most important is to know it gets your voice really well. Contrary to what some people think, Dragon works as well for a new user right out of the box as it does for me, who's been using Dragon for a long time. I've seen this over and over. We train a new physician, everybody thinks, well, it knows your voice. You've spent so long. Not at all. Used to be you'd spend an hour training your voice with Dragon. Now 5 to 7 minutes. That's all it takes. And Dragon gets your voice, and it knows your specialty. It knows it will do a wonderful job for virtually every speaker, even ones with thick accents, in getting text out of the box. So that's basic. Then we go about with every client figuring out what it makes sense to create for templates. So if you're using an EHR now, don't think replacing EHR on all your templates. That's not what you're going to do. What you're going to do is use templates to help automate some of the things that you don't want a template in your EHR, where a template might be too structured or too time-consuming. So if you find that doing an ROS in your EHR is efficient and you don't need to make it any better, then forget about Dragon. Just because I used a template called normal ROS, what we want to do is automate the places where now you're typing, or if you're using transcription. And so if we think through where you're spending the most time, that's where we'll employ these techniques. Okay, so I just used a template. I used the select command. I'm getting rid of that because I'm going to demonstrate something else now. So I'm going to return to PowerPoint here real quickly just to identify something about that select command, because I'll use it again here is a really key thing. We find very few things will frustrate a new user, but one that will is if you hear somebody say, boy, it's just so time-consuming or difficult to edit something, which used to be the case. Current version of Dragon, not at all, but understand this one command. And by the way, we'll talk about a few commands today. There are not an endless, that's a double negative. There are a limited number of commands you really learn to use all the time. There are 5 or 10 commands. Learn those. You don't need to do anything else. The select command, though, is key because that's what you're going to use to edit text. So the keys here are select a phrase, not a word. If you tried to select the word to, T-O, it might find that 15 times in whatever text is on the screen, and you'll find Dragon will not find it as effective. So just use at least 2 or 3 words when you're trying to change something. I'll show you how that works. And then timing, decide what you want to select before selecting it. So I'll come back and we'll use the select command, but I just want to make this special note. So now I'm going to use a different template. I'm going to use a template with next field and next field defaults, and you'll see how this will work. So the previous template that I used, normal ROS, simply was a set of text, and I could change anything in it. So now I'm going to use a more complex template where you can build an entire letter. So here's an example. My referral letter. Okay, so I turned my microphone off to stop, but you can see here that on the screen came in everything necessary for an entire letter with blocks here, which I'm calling fields, and the cursor immediately stopped in the first field. So a field for Dragon is nothing more than a set of left and right brackets. So the typical, once I call in this template, I'm going to turn my microphone on, and I'm going to use a button on my microphone to go from next field to next field. So here's how it works with hypertension symptoms. Evaluating the patient, seemed like symptoms were minor. Normal exam. Select clear to auscultation bilaterally. Lungs produced unusual symptoms, period. Need to schedule a cardiology consult, period. I'm going to recommend a cardiology consult for this patient, period. Symptoms don't appear to be something that we'll handle well in this office, period. Highs are oral, 20 milligrams BID. New line, 2 period, Xanax, 40 milligrams BID. Okay, so now what I just did is clinically ridiculous. I'm not a doctor. These would not be the medications you'd likely be producing. So what I wanted to do is identify the idea that whatever, and in fact, in this case, you can see at the bottom here, I'm not an MD. This is just an example. And you can have a John Hancock. This doesn't need to be a text. This could be my literal signature embedded as an image. And this letter could have our letterhead and today's date and the patient's name up top automatically, things that depending on the functionality of your EHR, those might be populated. So the design of the template is very simple. We simply, whatever we want to create, we make this into a template, and it could be an entire letter. But the important things that I just did are I used the template with fill in the blanks, where some things that are normal, like if I always start a letter this way and I always end a letter this way, I don't have to repeat those things. And so I used my template, I filled in the blanks I wanted to, and when I click a button, this is saved, and I go on. So we're basically trying to, with a template, give you a spot to fill in the things that are variable and speak what you wish to be descriptive of the patient's condition. Okay, so moving on. We could have next field defaults. I won't demonstrate this in the interest of time, but a default might be normal, or no complaints or whatever, and so you can accept those defaults automatically and skip them. So you can use next fields with or without defaults. So I'm going to demonstrate now a couple of really key things. These are among the most important 2 things, what I'm going to talk about next. Make that a shortcut, and what can I say? These are 2 things that will dramatically impact productivity. So make that a shortcut. What does that mean? It means typically in most environments where a physician where a clinician is dictating. It's to save time, be the most efficient, the bottleneck and most expensive employee is going to move on and needs to be fast. So the idea generally is if you're using a transcriptionist, you want to delegate everything you can outside of the physicians to do. Well, that's good and understood. With Dragon, though, what I want to encourage each provider to do is to learn to create your own templates because it's so easy to do. So let's say that we did this today. We had this portion of what I just dictated. Let's say this didn't come from a template. I just spent my time dictating these things, and I think, you know what? For another patient with this kind of condition, I will use a lot of this again. So I'm going to use this command called make that a shortcut, and everything that I have highlighted on my screen here will become part of that new shortcut. So a shortcut and a template, they're synonymous, same thing. So I'm going to use this feature now. I'm going to press the on button, and I'm going to use this feature called make that a shortcut. You'll see how it works. Make that a shortcut. My hypertension template. Okay, so I turned my microphone off, but you see I used my voice to put my command name in here. I could have typed it, but down in the body of this is all the text that was selected. So just by simply selecting the text and saying make that a shortcut, giving it a name, now I'm going to turn my microphone on and you'll see how I finish this. Click Save. So what I just did with click Save is I used the microphone to execute a mouse command. So if you look at my screen here and you see buttons on the screen, I could say click Add, click Encounter, click Delete. I could say click OPH, click Meds, anything on the screen that looks like a button or looks like a link. When you say click, Dragon looks on your screen to find that and will execute that for you. So you can learn to navigate within your EHR or on the web just by using the click command. So back to my template. So here we are with no template. I just called that template my hypertension exam. So I'm going to now use that in a sentence, and you'll see how this doesn't bring that automatic text in. Today I saw this patient and used my hypertension exam, period. Okay, so because those words were simply a part of my sentence, it knows the context is that those are just words. Now, my hypertension exam. So you see now that it called this template in, except for that wasn't the template I created. Wait a minute, I forgot the name of my template. So I said I was going to demonstrate two important features. Make that a shortcut is one. We just created a new shortcut, but then the other, what can I say? Oh my gosh, I do not remember the name of the template I just created. So what can I say as a feature? I'm going to use it now. What can I say? And on the screen, you see displayed all of, I called it my hypertension exam instead of my hypertension template. So here are all the names of templates that I have stored all in alphabetic order. And I don't have to use the word normal. I can use any template name. So now I realize, oh, I got the wrong name, my hypertension exam. Undo that. Scratch that. My hypertension template. Okay, so you can see that what I had created before was called in with that command. So learn how to create your own shortcuts and learn how to find out what template names are out there, and you will progress rapidly, because once you've just spoken something that you realize, I'm going to use this again, and then once these are created, they can be shared among providers. So you have 6 templates and somebody else in your practice has 15 templates they've created. You can choose to share them with each other or not. And so these are really important commands. Okay, so another thing that I won't, by the way, we will be finished by 9 o'clock promptly. So we're almost nearing, well, there's some really important content here, but one thing I want to talk about is internet search. So I'm with a patient or not with a patient. I want to investigate something. So I might be in the middle of my EHR or Outlook or wherever I am on my PC. I'm going to use an internet search command. Here's the way it works. Search up to date for insomnia. Click what's new in sleep medicine. Okay, so what just happened? I turned my microphone off. When I said search up to date for insomnia, it knows that the search command is a Dragon command. It went to my PC and looked for what is my default browser. It decided it was Chrome on my PC. It might be different on yours. It went to the website, so I said search up to date. It went to the up to date website for insomnia. It made that click, and then I used my click command to find something else. So I'm going to do another one here. Search WebMD for encephalitis. And you see what it did, exactly the same. So the pattern is, and if you have Dragon Medical now, some of you use Dragon Medical, you're here for education and information, try this today. It's fantastic. It saves a lot of time. And you can actually use the feature in other ways. You can say, search Google for directions to, but Google already has that functionality. WebMD does not. Okay, so you can search the internet. Okay, maybe the most important feature that people fail to know about and fail to use is hidden mode or dictation box. So I'm going to do that now. So the idea, again, I'm going to get rid of the text I've got here and start afresh. One of the things a lot of people think with Dragon is I speak where the cursor is and the text gets produced there. Well, that's true. That's exactly what it does do. So what if I wanted to, in a dictation area, start making some notes and speaking and producing text, but I don't have information, I don't remember other parts of this patient's chart? I'm going to press a button on my microphone to execute what's called dictation box. I'm going to do that now. And so on my screen, you see in very obscure translucent mode here a box where now Dragon knows that whatever I speak is going to be accumulated in this box. So I can move around in my EHR and I can go and look at the lab summary, and I'm going to start speaking to Dragon. Patients' cholesterol results have been variable over the past year period. Next time I see the patient, I want to schedule a complete blood workup. Coumadin results have been getting better, period. Make sure we evaluate instructions for the patient in this case. Period, new paragraph. I realized that the patient's had a myocardial infarction in his family history, so I want to explore that next time with the patient, period. Patient has been negligent in taking medications, period. I want to be sure this is up to date, period. So all of that, I left the microphone on. Now I'm going to use a button to transfer text. And everything that I was speaking over time as I was moving around in my chart is now pulled into my progress note in one place. So the idea of hidden mode is once you press that hidden mode button, you can move around, you can speak and speak and speak, and just say either say transfer text or press that button. So very, very useful feature. And so many times we encounter somebody who's purchased Dragon Medical and they don't even know that it exists. So another application for this, by the way, is if you use remote access, and many of us do, we have web servers in the cloud, and what we can find is that Dragon might operate very slowly, depending on how it's set up, and some of the functionality of Dragon, some of these commands may not work. Well, they work inside of hidden mode all the time at maximum speed. So if you have speed issues, depending on if you're at a remote location, you're dictating from home, or you simply don't have enough internet bandwidth, do your dictation in hidden mode, everything will work beautifully. So really important. Okay, one more thing I'm going to demonstrate here. Dragon has gotten so much better at this. I'm going to butcher some dictation. You'll see how Dragon likes it. Patient is here today for a exam, and the patient was really complaining about problems, period. Okay, so it didn't get that exactly perfectly, but darn close. So you can see the point here is that Dragon has learned how to filter out speech patterns, whether I say or pauses or keeping my voice going, things that used to really cause Dragon to get a lot of wrong text. It's gotten very, very much better. So you can also store report it formatting. I won't spend time because we won't want to be finished by 9 o'clock, but know that network voice profile is another feature that's really important, And I'll mention how this works because of the importance of the feature. You're going to use Dragon on multiple devices if you're typical. So you have a laptop, you have a desktop PC, you have a PC at home, you might have PCs in each exam room, you might have a dictation station in a hallway, and you have one voice profile, or do you? When you install Dragon, the default, it doesn't even ask, it stores your voice profile on your C drive, and that's what is custom to you. All your templates are stored in there, the things it's learned about your names and of referring doctors and so forth. That voice profile is really important. What you don't want to do is have to carry your voice profile around on a USB drive and put it into every PC where you sit. So what we do is we set it up to store this on a network location. We don't charge for it. It's just simple. We know how to do it. That means anytime you're on your network, it automatically uses the same voice profile. But a really key thing is when you exit Dragon, it saves your voice profile not only to your network location, it always also saves it to your C drive. So what happens, you take your laptop home, you open Dragon and you start dictating and it says, oh, I can't find your network voice profile. Do you want to use the local copy? And you say yes. And so your most recent voice profile from the network is automatically used, stored when you exit. You go into the office the next day and you log into the network, and when you go to Dragon, it sees that there's a more recent copy on your C drive and it replaces the network version. So, and that's optional, but it's a really, really useful thing. And then one other thing I'll mention is that the power mic, a very, very important part of effective use of Dragon, some of the buttons come out of the box that aren't set the way we think they ought to be. So we always make sure we set up the transfer text button. We always make sure we set up a next field button. And they're very easy to do. We don't charge for it, but these are things that we've learned can really help with productivity. Have your microphone set properly. In fact, the on-off button, the very basic thing, comes out of the box set to hold it to speak and let it up to not speak. Some people do prefer that, but to me, my thumb would get tired, and we set this, of course we can change it, and you can change it, we can teach you how to change it. We set this to push it to turn it on and push it to turn it off. And the light on the microphone lights up when it's on, so you can see when the microphone is listening to you. So, okay. That's pretty much a summary of the features that we have found to be really important. One last thing that's very critical is training. So why is it that some physicians say, yeah, Dragon, you know, it's okay, yeah, I use it, it's fine. And some say, oh my gosh, this is so fantastic, it's changed my life. The difference is knowing how to use it well. So what we have found is that the incidence of you buy it from us, you have to buy it from an authorized reseller. You can't buy it less expensively than you can from us. We offer a discount to webinar attendees, so each of you, but whether you buy it online or whether you buy it via media like this, you're going to pay the same price for Dragon. But if you don't have training, you're likely to really miss out. So what we have found really works is one-on-one, on-site, standing behind you training. We can do internet training. Takes less time, you save a bit of money, but human nature gets in the way. So we found one-on-one, we come to your office, we have some setup done in advance, we've learned how to do some template work. We don't charge for the template setup, we just want to understand the workflow so that we can make the training productive. So we show up, Dragon set up, and now we're going to spend about an hour, could be more or less, with each physician who's going to use this. In that training session, instead of like today, you watch me, the physician is doing the work, holding the microphone, and the trainer saying, okay, try this, try this. And then there's a process where we're going to establish some accountability. You want to do this for at least a half hour a day or at least 3 patients a day. Some physicians just take off and start using it every patient, but change is hard. That's a really important message in learning these features. So after today's webinar, you'll remember some of the things that I talked about, and you won't remember some of the things. It'll be the same way in training. So this on-site training, we find every time trainer comes back, says, oh, this is great, doctor's going to do great. This is, you know, we did some live dictation into their EHR. We always put a business associate agreement in place. And we also include another staff person who's watching and listening. So the issue then used to be we only did one training session, and we would find with some frequency, we'd call back in a couple of weeks, how's the doctor doing? Well, hasn't been using it or is frustrated or whatever, and thinking, what? That just doesn't match compared to what the trainer thought. And human nature got in the way, and the doctor went on and didn't really use it. So with some accountability, and a second training session scheduled. So when the first training session's over, we agree, okay, 3 weeks from today or whatever the date is, trainer will be back. We're going to go through this again and cover some follow-up. That, with the physician actually doing the work in between times, second session always is productive instead of, yeah, what was it that we were supposed to do? There are some good questions and really make progress. You go through 2 training sessions with a live experienced certified dragon trainer, you will be a dragon whiz. There's no guarantees, but it's not rocket science. You follow the process, it'll work. We found it really helps. Very quickly, dragon cost with the Power Mic, $18.99. We discount it. You're going to spend some money on training and some setup, and you'll upgrade the software probably once in 5 years. You're going to have spent over the first 5 years $3,000, roughly. So divide that out over 60 months. You'll have spent $3,000, averaging $50 a month. So there are monthly fees associated with it, but big picture, you look at this as an investment compared to any other method of getting dictation done. It is extremely cost effective, and depending on where you think you're going to save money, if you're saving transcription money, then it's a really no-brainer. That may be a disrespectful term, pardon me, but the net savings for a typical clinician is significant. So finish with content. I hope this has been helpful for you. Appreciate your attendance. I'm going to stay online for questions, but otherwise I want to say thank you for your attendance. We appreciate you and hope this has been valuable.